Now we begin the process of making the paints that artists actually use. We have to recognize that many of the materials we will be using are hazardous. So in order to protect ourselves, we need proper protection, and the first is a pair of glasses for our eyes, safety glasses. Since we are going to be handling hazardous materials, we will put on these nitrile gloves. Now that we have our prepared surface, we need to make our paints. We will make 3 different paints, that is, paints with 3 different binders. The first will be linseed oil, the second will be acrylic, and the third will be tempera. So let's begin. The first paint we will make is an oil paint. The oil that we will be using is linseed oil, and we're going to make a blue paint and a yellow paint. Take a few drops of the oil, drip it into a small volcano. We'll mix them to see what kind of consistency we get. And clearly in this first blue one, which is Prussian blue, by the way, we need a good deal more oil. Prussian blue is a very, very fine pigment, and consequently, the purpose of the binder is to surround each particle. The more particles there are, means the more oil or binder that will be required. Other binders, oil binders that are commonly used, are walnut seed oil, poppy oil, safflower oil, but by far the most common is linseed oil. Okay, now we're ready to move on to the yellow. These are very fine ground pigments, and the finer the grinding of the pigment, the more oil is required to encircle all of the pigment particles. So there we have our first paints, oil in this case. The second paint we will make is an acrylic, which is a synthetic resin mixed in water. So let's begin the process. Here, since it's water-based, we'll actually need quite a bit. However, what will happen with acrylic paints is that the pigment over time will absorb more of the solvent, which in this case is water. So we may have to come back prior to using this paint and dilute it with more of the resin. Now let's work on the Hansa yellow. Each pigment has its own characteristics when mixed with a particular binder. The third paint we will make is an egg temperer binder paint, and we will use only the yolk of the egg in order to do it. And I simply grab the sack, pinch the bottom, and that looks probably just a little bit more water would be good. There we go. And that's a good consistency for a binder. Having worked with this before, I know that it takes quite a bit. Let's mix them up for our yellow. Just be sure all of the pigment is wet with the binder. And we now have our 3 paints.